Hi, I'm Apurva Agarwal, and my co host, Arun Shastri. We are both partners at ZS, and welcome to yet another episode of the Golden Hour. Today, our guest, Arun, is a very interesting, absolutely distinguished and accomplished profile, but very different from what we've had in the past. So I'm very excited to welcome our guest today. She's a distinguished Bharatanatyam dancer and choreographer and has pushed boundaries through innovative storytelling. She's, of course, awardee of Padma Shri and Sangeet Natak Kala Academy. And she's also, taken from the Mumbai stage to the Kennedy Center. So please welcome Miss Malavika Sarukkai here today with us.
Thank you. It's wonderful, I think, just being here and being part of this conversation. And let's see where the flow goes.
Fabulous. So let's go back to 7 years old. What was your earliest memories of dance?
Very simply put, I was not keen to dance, but my mother thought I should dance. And she was one of those very persuasive people. So she very nicely told me, why don't you go to class? So that's how I actually started dancing. I think I did it for her, and I liked it. I enjoyed it. I was a kid. I enjoyed it. So that's how it's 7. That was my feeling for it.
Like, when did the liking became the passion, the calling, and then such a successful profession as well, sir?
Well, if I have to just talk in very brief points, like from 7 to I did my Arangetram. That's the first time you get on the stage when you do a public performance, and that was way back in 1972. And Sitara Devi, one of our foremost legendary Kathak artists, I remember, after the program, like I was on stage, I was a bit dazed because there's so many people who had come and they came with flower garlands and little presents, and I was not expecting all that. So I was a little dazed. But guess what she said? She walked up to me in her fiery way. She used to leave her hair open and a red bindi, and she was like full of spirit. And she came and she told me, she said, if you want to dance, don't get married. And I was like 12 and I was looking at her and I was wondering, like, what is she saying to me? But it really hit me. But she spoke from her heart. And that was something which really like hit me. But then we moved from Bombay to Madras. And at 16, I decided. 16 was turning point. 16 was by 16, I found that dance was sanctuary. It was a space that embraced me. It was a space that gave me well-being, which I felt the world around me was not providing. So 16, it was a reckless decision which my mother supported. The only person who supported was my mother.
In the performing arts, the notion of Guru Parampara is very well established. In our profession, it's not as established. We all look for gurus, and some of us are very fortunate to find. And then you outgrow that guru and you move to another guru. Things like that happen. Can you reflect on the role of the guru, and in your journey, and then as you yourself moved on to be a guru to perhaps countless others who have learned from you? How do you think about this guru parampara?
I think the word guru is very loaded as a word. So I just say teacher, because I think a guru in that sense is someone who actually illumines the path, which is a very big responsibility. When I learned in Bombay, I had my gurus who taught me my dance, and I would call them my gurus because they taught me the fundamental. And that was, so precious learning I did with them because they were extraordinary teachers and gurus. But now I wouldn't call myself a guru. I just say, I'm a teacher, I'm a mentor, etc. But I think there's overload on, that word now in the performing arts. Because I think it's used so much that it's become cliched with so many other words, right? You keep using it and then the word itself loses the meaning. And then you've kind of lost what it really meant or what it really should stand for, because it's been hijacked along the way by everything.
You mean adulterated too, or just
Everything.
yeah?
Because, to keep anything in essence requires a certain like responsibility and integrity and ethics to keep it in essence without, and it's hard work. It's not easy. So I think, as I said, I just now have put away the word guru and I say we have teachers of dance. And with everything else, I'm sure it's even in the world, in the corporate world, there's so many differing standards, right? The levels of expertise, excellence, and I mean, it's so different.
But how is the journey from being the mastery of the art itself and then now teaching it to people? How has that changed you as a professional as well as a leader in some way across?
It's a different, I'm primarily a performer. And that was something my mother again saw in me, and she just thought I'm basically a soloist. I've done a little bit of ensemble, but it's fine to share the stage. But, left to myself, I love the space to myself. So then I can create the energy I want. I can do the storytelling the way I want to. We were talking of stories,
Storytelling,
right?
yeah.
And this is storytelling through poetry and music and melody and rhythm and movement, and energy fields are changing on stage and so much is happening. So I see myself as a performer primarily, and that's been my lifetime in dance. When I was young, when I was in my 20s, people say, "Oh, so what else do you do?" And it's like, "What are you asking me? Why are you asking me this? You shouldn't." And I just get very annoyed. They say, "What else?" I say, "Dance." It's like, "Is it your hobby?" And that would get me even,
Yeah.
more angry. It's like, And then it became full time in my 30s. Now it's a lifetime. It's just lifetime. And it's a life lived in dance, not with it, in it.
Somebody looking at taking this as a profession, right? I mean, remember so my mother's done her visharad in violin, okay, and there was music around me and general cultural acclimatization. So she also put me into learning Kathak, and I've learned it for 7 years. But it was always seen as something that you do on the side. But if somebody wants to do it, what will be your message, and how do they take it ahead to say, in today's world, what does it mean to make it a lifetime and be here?
It's a lot of things. I think it's really so many things. I think one is the passion that you have for it and the commitment to stay with it and to do it over decades. It's like, I find this has been very important, is how do you refresh yourself every time? Because dance is also repetition. I guess you also have repetition, right,
Of
in
work,
your
yeah.
kind of work. But it's like, how does the brain and the being here in the dancer, the whole dancing body, how do we refresh it so that it's not just repeat, but it's refreshed? So what is happening when we actually refresh, right? What are we doing within ourselves to refresh? And I think that's across any field, in anything is. And then how do you stay creative? What is it that makes you creative? What is it that makes you stay on course? And I think it's a hell of a lot of discipline. You might have all the talent, but if you don't have that discipline and that hard work and sometimes the tediousness of going into that studio and practicing, you might not want to practice. You have to practice. It's like an athlete, right? It's like an athlete. The dancing body is like an athlete. So it's how do we train? What do we do? That is just the physical part of it. But emotionally, I'm not even talking spiritually because that's even deeper, deeper, deeper. Emotionally, like what do we do to refresh it? And I often tell dancers, younger dancers, I say, unless you find delight in the dance, you can't refresh. You can't find, you know what I'm saying? You can't
Yeah.
find delight
Yeah.
in something external.
It has to be something
In the
internal.
work. Would you say the same thing for in the world of
No,
corporates?
absolutely.
How do you people refresh yourself?
Yeah. I think for us, I think one, completely agree with this aspect of you need to be passionate with what you do and, of course, good at it. So, playing at the intersection of the two, I think makes you continuously improve, right, in the work that you do. And, of course, in today's world of technology, which will be a big part of how we refresh the way that we do, I think it's thinking, it's imagining, it could be what else. And I think that will happen only if I like what I do today and saying, I want to do this for the next 20 years, 30 years. How do I keep myself relevant? And that is how I think it comes across.
Before I answer your question, I have to say, Apurva, your 7 years of Kathak training, actually, it's translated into some good Bollywood moves.
Yeah.
I've seen you
And the expression that I
perform.
bring in as well.
That's that too. You should move your hands a little bit more, though. But we have this concept of living on a slope.
Living on a slope, can you explain that?
And the idea being that you can't just stand still. If you are on a slope, you got to keep climbing. So the notion of living on a slope is that if you imagine it, then you always have to be taking a couple of steps forward and getting yourself better all the time. And when I think of your career, for example, it's not just mastery of the body. I would think there is some evolution where you're now creating these complex themes.
I'd have, you talked about refreshing, but then but how do you balance and honor and preserve in some way also the classical form, the essence of it, and especially in today's world where, of course, there's different form. So how do you balance the two and make sure there is a fresh perspective to a very different set of audience there?
I think we need to think of the word refreshing. Does refreshing mean stepping out? To me, it doesn't. Refreshing means being able to do the same movement again with more awareness, with more mindfulness. Because what happens is when intention, this is a word we use. I know in the corporate world, you also use the word intention, right?
Yeah.
We use it a lot. So when intention comes in, and it's a quality of intention, right? When that seeps into the being of the dancer or the artist, it refreshes it. But that means you have to be so alert to the moment so that every time you tell the story, it's the first time. It's the first time. So it's like actually having to work. It's a lot of, it's also rigor, and it's passion, and it's commitment, and it's, I don't know, everything which comes into it. So refreshing, when I say, it doesn't mean I have to expand it. I don't have to step out of it. But I have to mention now, since we're talking so much about dance, is that initially, just to give your viewers here, I think it might be interesting for them to, whoever's looking at this podcast, is to say initially the structure of dance, classical dance, is like a very tight grid. Okay, so our grid is like this. It's unforgiving. Yeah. You have to, you've learned Kathak, right? Exactly. So it's unforgiving, and you have to sustain yourself within this. You do 10 years, you do 20 years, and then you find it moves. It gives you space. But you're still within that grid, that structure, except that structured is opening. So 30 years, 40 years, 50 years for me, it's given me so much space that I can do bija. And I can still say, oh my God, this is classical, because we are working with rhythm. We have got poetic math. I mean, that's dance, right? It's poetic math. And we are dancing poetic math in space. We are dancing it, and we are energizing space, and we are, it's an extraordinary expression of the human body.
And there's several names of artists, right? So what was the role? Did you have allies? Did it matter to you? Was it just an internal courage?
Yeah, it was. It was like internal courage. It was courage and commitment. And I was seeing a path in dance, and I felt that I needed to dance in that way, right? But the fact that I was so damn good at what I did, the audience came. So they came. I started shifting the way I thought of the dancing body, this body. So I started shifting it but I was very good, so they showed up. So sometimes at one point, I the rigor of my practice made me dance with it became really austere. And what I was doing was I was taking away the decoration because I wanted essence. Now people couldn't understand that. It's like, oh, why would you take away decoration? It looks so pretty and it's so like fussy all over the place and it's so nice. I said, I want to say, I don't want distraction.
Yeah.
I want to say more with less. I want to say more with less. So I started changing the whole movement vocabulary. So I dance very differently to other artists. Very. But that is my path. And I'm saying, I believe in it. I have to do this.
You can draw parallels.
Yeah,
What
so
are we?
many,
Yeah,
because
tell me.
one of the things that I was thinking is that there will be enough lows in one's life, but you need one or two voices to say that doesn't define you. It is a situation you're in. It's an action that didn't give the required outcome, but that's not what defines you. Pick up yourself and then move ahead. And there is so much more to it. So I actually feel that I think in any world that is so needed for having these champions
Yes,
who would
and I
help you.
also feel, sometimes, you're just far ahead of how people are thinking about the dance form. You've gone ahead, so people are not keeping up with you, right?
You have gone from immersion, of course, to mastery of this art. Uh, Oftentimes, I think about us as consultants, and I think about a very simple rule. I think we should be empathetic. For us, it's our clients, our people, our colleagues. We should be curious about the world around us, our clients' problems, how we think about solving the problem, and we should be disciplined. And as you were describing your art form, I can't help but think several of these principles apply to you as well. You bring empathy in many ways to your art form, to characters, to situations, and more. You are curious because that's how you are evolving as an artist as well. And you can't do what you do and be world's best unless you brought some discipline. Would you agree that those are three? Would you add anything more to it?
Yeah, I would completely agree with you that, we need all these things. I think to be creative, if you just to say creative, and that's another thing my mother said, and I think I'd like to say this here, is, she said, creativity is not only in the dance class or the dance, as space, but creativity is in life. So she'd also always say, how can you live creatively? Live creatively, not in the profession we do, but as people. How do we just live creatively? And that has really stayed with me, which means that, you really you relate to a lot more things. And I think that's what we need in the world we're living in, not to be in these compartments and silos and everybody's a little island and I, me, myself, and all the rest of it. Because that is, you're really cutting away from any interaction.
So, of course, I attend a lot of arangetrams, 18, 19-year-olds going off to college, and it seems to be quite a trend these days. And usually you have the same 5 or 6 set pieces, and you have a Pollada Krishnan song
Yes.
somewhere in there, and they're all fantastic. They're all very enjoyable. But somehow, the way when I listen to you talk about dance, I see all these sort of social themes and more emerge. Is that a journey? You go from enacting a story to imagining, perhaps an adaptation of that story, to expressing social themes in bigger, bolder ways to create awareness. So one is a pure, I'm going to tell you the story you already know, but listen to me, to I'm going to let you imagine a different story. That's a conscious journey?
It's a personal journey. It's exclusively my journey. Each artist is there in this ocean and they have to go find themselves. But perhaps image wise, because I think dancers think image all the time, image-wise, it's like saying this Arangetram, which you say you have going to so. Arangetram is like the lower hills, which is very tough to climb initially. So you do a lot of your teacher is helping you, and with great difficulty, you come to the top of that hill. And then you stand on top of that lower hill, and then you look around and you say, oh my God, there is so much more, right? I have walked many peaks. I have journeyed. And then I go to the next mountain range and I stand there and I say, oh my God, look at what I have missed. Look at the valleys, look at the sky, look at the rhododendrons, look at the trees. What is it I've missed? And then that keeps me going, and I'm curious, and I'm discovering myself. So I say, oh, let me climb more peaks. And then you climb, and you see vista. You see vastness. And that is dance. That is this core of dance. At the deepest level, it's taking you, but you have to climb. It's a lonely journey.
You talked about peaks, okay? But to climb the next peak, there's valleys, and there are these lows, and then there are failures that come your way, right? I'd love to know how in this journey you've come across, I'm sure many as well, but then, just imagine the great peak in front of you and then climbed.
For me, the valley is not necessarily a failure. The valley holds beauty. It's that I've climbed here, I walk down, I discover more. Sometimes there's failure. There's times when I've choreographed an entire production, like 90 minutes of it. It's been far ahead of my time. People they cannot see a soloist like out there. And after one show, it goes under. But I worked hard and I did it because I felt committed to it. Now, if I say, oh my God, I failed now, all my creativity is gone, I'm done. I've just given up on dance. Excuse me. How can I give up on dance? It's much greater than you and me and all of us here. So it's at this thing, I was ahead of my time. But that doesn't stop me from being inspired to do more. So I continue climbing. I say, come on, I will climb. I will rehearse hard. I will get my musicians to raise the bar. And that's another thing. Very importantly, I have to say about teamwork. That's another word we constantly use. Teamwork. How do I get my team to come along with me?
All right, this is a fascinating conversation. I think we could go on and on. Just what a pleasure. I think for me, several things popped out. First is convention doesn't have to hold you back. Convention's there. It's there, good for a reason. But it's always okay to question it. Just because something's been done in some way in the past doesn't mean it has to be. You have to have that sense of confidence, but you have to be prepared. You have to be ready for it and more. And, that confidence is a very, very important thing, and, that's what drives the change for anybody. So you have to have that sense of confidence about you. The importance of mentors, allies. I mean, I think you've made it clear that that's important in every profession. And in your case, I think your mother played a very important role along your journey. And, so that's good. I think the other thing for me was very, very important is this notion of refresh, replenish, and it's personal, but it's also in our professional sense. We have to think about problems differently. Just because you've learned a rule book of how you solve a problem, just don't keep applying that, because you'll get more creative, better solutions if you refresh and replenish yourself. And I thought that was fantastic. And I think, several times today in our conversation, I got goosebumps because I think I've heard of people say things like follow your belief. And today I felt like, through your expressions and through your movements, I could almost sense it. Like, when you're telling a story, the way you tell a story, I'm imagining you on a stage telling the story. So I think you instill that sense of belief. So that was very, very insightful for me to see as well too. So thank you for joining Apurva and I on this
Thank you.
podcast.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you.